Hello, everyone. My name is Grecia from Date Cuenta con Yaquecitas.
Hi, my name is America from Que Ondas Podcast. Please remember to hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. Ring the notification bell so you're notified every time we upload a new video or go live. Remember to leave your comments in the section down below if you have any questions, any suggestions, or if you just want to say hello. Without being said, let's get started. Hi, Grecia. How are you?
Very good. Thank you, Amy, for being here with us. We're going to start our first episode today in English. We're going to start talking about the life and, biography of Sergio Andrade. If you can introduce us to his biography.
Yes, the monster. Sergio Andrade, full name Sergio Gustavo Andrade Sanchez. He was born in Mexico, in Veracruz, in November 26, 1955. He is a singer, a composer, a film director, a music producer, an orchestra director, screenwriter, guitarist, and pianist, among other things. He was arrested in Brazil after months of searching by the Interpol, and he was later extradited to Mexico to face various charges from the court of the state of Chihuahua. And in 2005, he was sentenced to 7 years and 10 months in prison for the crimes of kidnapping, aggravated rape, and the corruption of minors. At that time, he had just had a child with Karina Yapor. His parents were actually the ones that put a warrant for his arrest, or they went to the police in Mexico because Karina Yapor was reported for kidnapping by him and this really large group of women and young girls that were traveling with him. He was in Brazil during that time. Any facts you want to tell us?
Yes, this was like you said, there was this group of women. These were all his victims. As we started in the introduction, talking about that he's the only perpetrator, the only abuser, and you went into 7 years. 7 years in prison. He was arrested in Brazil, January 13th of 2000. And in 2007, he was released. In 2007, when he was released, allegedly, he reached an agreement with the victim, and that was the reason that he was released so early, only 7 years and 10 months.
So he only served, for all his crimes, he only served 7 years, which should have been more, but because of that agreement, he was released early.
And because other victims unfortunately, they haven't sought justice against Sergio Andrade. And like we talked in the introduction as well, they're actually doing a lawsuit, but it's more against Gloria Trevi than his real abuser. He should be in jail. He should be in jail. And that's the reason why we're also doing this. We want to do this episodes and talk to you guys about from the beginning how it all started, because we want to seek justice and we would like him to end his life in prison.
We want Sergio Andrade to come to justice and to serve a lifetime in prison if it's possible, because the crimes that he committed were atrocious. And this is just a small biography that we are giving you guys of his life and how smart he was. He was really smart. We cannot take that away from him. This is why he was able to manipulate and really trap these young girls into this so-called cult that he created with all these young women, and was abusive and was controlling.
He was also diagnosed by many different or several different psychologists of being a psychopath. And I guess we're not professionals in that, but what we like America said, we're giving the most important facts about him. And one is that, well, yeah, he was very, very smart, but I think it's part of being what he was, a psychopath. And these people are, one of the characteristics is that they're very smart. And you're going to go ahead and give us a little bit of a detail of some facts.
So some of the facts that he went to school in UNAM. He also studied philosophy there, and he's studying in the National Conservatory of Music as a piano performer from 1967 to 1973. And he was a very smart person.
Yes, and as well, I would also add to this that he was a multiple award winner from this very famous music festival called La OTI, Festival OTI de la Canción. Music festival OTI from the song. He won, like I said, multiple awards through the years.
Another thing I'd like to mention is that Andrade has been married 4 times. The first one was Guadalupe Casillas from 1981, María Raquel Portillo, aka Mari Boquitas, 1985, Aileen Hernandez, 1990 to 1992, Sonia Rios, 1997, and he had 2 daughters with Sonia Rios, Sofia and Antonia. Andrade has 8 children that he had with this. Back then they were minors. Now they are adult women. But 8 children. Ana Dalai by Gloria Trevi. Valentina by Carla de la Cuesta. Milton by Carola de la Cuesta. María Miel by Wendy Castelo, Francisco Ariel by Karina Yapor, Víctor Isaac by Marlene Calderón, and Antonia and Sofía by Sonia Rios. All the women and all the children that I have mentioned were part of this so-called cult that Sergio Andrade created, and it's a very sad story that we were wanting to tell you guys. The details that we are mentioning are just so you have an idea of the magnitude of harm that this person was inflicting and the magnitude of pain that he made all these women go through having children of this predator.
Yes.
Sergio Andrade. Another fact that we want to mention is some of his childhood background that Grecia is going to talk to us about. What do you know about his childhood from your research?
Yes, as a fact, he was raised as a military type. He was raised by his parents in a military type of family, yeah, and he was abused by his parents during his childhood. And as we know, I have a little bit of knowledge in psychology, although we mentioned we're not psychologists, but he actually became an abuser. He lived abuse himself by his parents. And instead of him being a good person of, trying to change that in his life, he actually became the abuser. And we know that psychologically, that's how it works. When you're an abused child, either you become the abuser or you become the victim.
It is very true.
If you don't take the right steps to take, to
therapy.
Yeah. And we don't know if he was already born with these characteristics of being a psychopath, or if it was created through the years because of the abuse he lived, because that's a fact that he was actually an abused child by his parents.
And back then, I mean, we weren't even born back then, but if it's difficult nowadays to get therapy and to actually speak out if you were being raised in an abusive home. It's hard to get help. Can you imagine back then when it was very stigmatized, if you had any sort of mental problems, if you had any sort of form of abuse from a parent or family member? It was very looked down upon if you asked for help. So I imagine that it must have been really difficult for him to have a military family background and his mom also being abusive towards him. That must have been really hard on his psyche, and he could have gone two ways. He could have gotten help and be a better person and not repeat the abusive cycle, but he went totally the other opposite way. He became an abuser and he put all these young women through hell. Basically, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So even though his mind was really messed up from all this abuse, he still was able to become a very smart and educated person. As a composer and a producer, he received gold and platinum records with performers such as Lucero, Cesar Costa, Yuri, Cristal, Maria Jose, etc. As a screenwriter, he wrote and directed a film with Gloria Trevi was the main character. Old Shoes, and in Spanish, Zapatos Viejos, and The Potato Without Ketchup, La Papa Sin Katsu. Zapatos Viejos was in 1992, and La Papa Sin Katsu was in 1995. He also wrote the music for these movies, and among all these things that he was doing, he also wrote a couple books. One was called Revelations. Another one was called The Useless Blood, Pedestrian, and Bad Breath. If I do not recommend these books, they are extremely disgusting. They are horrible. They depict very harmful and very graphic scenes of the life that he was living with these young girls, but he changed the names to all of the characters in his books. But by the way that he describes scenes and things that happen in this book, we know who he is referring to. We do not recommend you going to read these books, but if you happen to want to read it, just to get yourselves into the mindset of what this person was doing to these young girls and the way that he was thinking and the way that he wanted and he did abuse all these young girls, you should just kind of read through it if you have the stomach for it, but we really don't recommend it.
Yes. Yes, America. I would like to add to that that he had many books of hypnosis.
Yes.
And sorry. And okay, this is our first episode, so I'm a little this is new to us. So how to control, also books of how to control the mind of children and children's psychology. This is a fact said by the victims. Most of by all of his victims, and also of many different people that were close to him, like even other producers and people that were close to him during during the time that he was with, all those years when he was with Gloria Trevi. So it's incredible how he actually had all these books. He was actually learning about how to control their minds.
And looking back at these pictures, it's actually a picture of Sergio Andrade with Lucero. It's so sinister now knowing what we know about Sergio Andrade, and looking at that picture, it makes my skin just crawl, imagining how he was manipulating these young girls and the things that he must have been saying and doing to them. Lucero was the first known victim of Sergio Andrade, the one that was famous, quote unquote. And after Lucero was Gloria Trevi?
Was Judy
Yes.
Cristal.
Judy and Cristal.
And
correct.
I think that while it's actually a fact that while Sergio Andrade was working with Lucero, he was actually married to his first wife, and he was already being abusive. There's a recent interview of 2-3 months ago that she was interviewed, and she talks about the abuse that she lived. And I remember her talking about while things that happened to her while she was married to Sergio Andrade, and while Sergio Andrade was working with Lucero.
Wow. Yes, so once you look at those pictures, you're gonna really say, oh my God, how was this predator being able to be so close to this young women and nobody speaking up? I'm sure there were a lot of people around him that knew the way that he was. Older people, not the young girls, not the victims. They will never speak up against their abuser if they're being manipulated. But I'm sure there was older men, older women. He knew Pati Chapoy back then too. And she knew the way that he was, and she never spoke out. She never said, oh, this person is not a good person. I'm sure there were a lot of people from the television networks that knew the way that he was with young girls and the things that he was into, and never said anything to protect or to help the victims that were under him. So now that we mentioned some of these famous people like Lucero, Yuri, and Gloria Trevi, I want to go back to why why the Interpol was looking for him and he was running away. Because, like I mentioned, the parents of Karina Yapor actually put a lawsuit or a missing persons report, or they went to the police station to say that their daughter Karina Yapor was kidnapped. And this rumor started happening in Mexico. Andrade, Gloria Trevi, and other young women were in Brazil during this time. Andrade began to travel extensively with this group of quote-unquote, what he called them, girlfriends, but they were minors that were being manipulated by Sergio Andrade.
Some of them were, during that time, some of them were minors. Through the years, they became adults. Some of them were already adults. I think the only one at that time that was a minor was Karina Yapor.
Yes, so Karina Yapor, Gloria Trevi, or Gloria de Los Ángeles Treviño Ruiz, a.k.a. Gloria Trevi, Marlene Calderón, the sisters Carola, Katia, and Carla de la Cuesta, Sonia Ríos, Mari Boquitas, María Raquel Portillo, the Argentinian Liliana Soledad Regueiro, Wendy and Selene Castelo were with him in Brazil and several places. He went to Spain, Chile, Argentina, and eventually Brazil. He would sporadically go to Mexico, but he wouldn't because of the rumors that were happening about Karina Yapor. And
he was escaping. He was just all this time with his victims.
yes. But rumors started happening, and the television show or the network TV Azteca started beginning to talk about all these things happening, and book La Gloria por el Infierno, Glory Through Hell, and that's
Gloria. She was referring to Gloria Trevi.
yes. So in Spanish, the book is called La Gloria por el Infierno, but it's called Glory Through Hell. That's in direct translation to
she's
English.
referring exactly to her. It has the picture.
So
that's the reason it was sold so much, because it had Gloria Trevi as the main picture of the portrait of the book.
Yes, and she was talking about all the abuse and everything that happened to her, in her own words, what happened during this time when she was with Sergio Andrade, when Aileen Hernandez was with Sergio Andrade.
And just a little input, while she was doing all this promotion with TV Azteca and all this promotion of the book, she did say in different occasions, different times, that Gloria Trevi was also like being kidnapped. She was also a victim, and that she was speaking up because she wanted her to be free of the abuse. Now, 25 years later, things have changed, and she has made now different statements, but it's all there in interviews and all recorded, what she said, that Gloria Trevi was a victim.
So because I want to bring it back and just mention that during this time when Sergio Andrade was being Sergio Andrade, when he was younger and manipulating all these women that wanted to be famous, all these girls, young girls.
With a dream. They
children.
all had a dream.
Yes, they had a dream. They wanted to be famous. He knew, we already know from what we read to you, we know that he was very smart. We know that he comes from an abusive family. We know that he was very educated and reading a lot of psychology books, and actually studied some of the courses for psychology in university. Knowing all of this about him, we know and we are sure he had the power to manipulate young women by promising them, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to make you famous. And young girls, they wanted to be famous, so they would have a dream and say, yes, I want to be famous. And this is when Gloria Trevi comes into play.
Yeah, he was well known as, I don't know how to, if you can help me, I don't know how to say it in English, or if I can say it.
I'll try. Se nos va a salir lo pochas. But it's okay, because we'll do our best. English is not our first language, but we are doing our best to bring you guys all the information that we know.
But almost our first language, but not quite.
Yeah. It's because we have to translate everything in our brain from Spanish to English, because we also have our Spanish-speaking audience, and when we say the things in Spanish, it's more fluent than when we do it in English, because we're doing all the translation
yes,
right on hand
to our English audience. Yes.
What is it that you want to say?
He was well known as El Rey Midas de la Música. He was known as, like, I don't know, the king of the music. So, like, when you were explaining that, we need to start off explaining to our audience, like, who was Sergio Andrade, how powerful he was. He was known as El Rey Midas. So when Gloria Trevi came to meet him, he was who he was already. He was around, I think, 28 years old. And El Rey Midas, so the king of music. He was very well known. He was popular in Mexico. He was on the shows of Televisa. This is a very popular television channel, and almost the only one. Now things have changed. Now we have social media. We have YouTube, TikTok, or we have all these Amazon Prime or all these different apps to where, but at that time Televisa was like the only thing that Mexico watched, and he was so popular. He was well known. Like they would say that everything he touched, he would make it to gold. He would turn it to gold.
Yeah. That's so. Can you imagine a young mind with ambitions and dreams, and having someone that has all these years ahead of them manipulate them and just work their brains so much that some of them say that they were in love with him? He would make them write letters to him saying how much they were devoted to him.
And some, like you said, some girls actually believed.
Yeah.
They were in love. And one of the persons, the woman that actually we know as a fact that did fall in love with Sergio Andrade was Gloria Trevi.
Yes.
The only one that we know that, she was truly in love with him.
And we also forgot to mention that Sergio Andrade did have or does have one brother. What is his brother's name?
Eduardo Andrade Sanchez. He is known as a famous politician in Mexico with power, as we understand that politicians have a lot of power, and allegedly also this was one of the reasons that allegedly it's known that he only served 7 years and 10 months in jail because he had his brother with power, with money, and was able to get to an agreement with the victim, and also unfortunately with the law in Mexico.
Yes.
It's very, very, and one of the things that I also want to mention about his brother is that he's actually, it was also allegedly known that one of the sons that he had from Sonia Rios, he actually gave him to his brother in adoption. So he has never accepted it. His brother, the politician, but it's known that the son that he has is allegedly from Sergio Andrade. And as I'm saying, this is a son. Sergio Andrade is known that he didn't want boys in his cult.
Yes, it's true.
That's why he gave his son from Sonia Rios. And just want to just finish the Eduardo Andrade Sanchez. He's a former deputy of Congress from Veracruz currently. He's the older brother. He's 75 years old, and we know that Sergio Andrade is 68.
Wow,
so he has power. This is one of the things that we're going to get more into depth, but this is one of the reasons victims would say that he would, how do I say,
had control
over over the victims, talking about his brother, the politician, if they would run away, something, he had so many power. Can you
imagine if I tell you, if you run away, I will find you. I have power. I have people in the government that no matter where you go, I'm going to find you. How scary that is. And I would be terrified. I'm scared talking about him.
Yeah, this monster was powerful in every way.
Yeah,
unfortunately, and he used it for the bad. It's hard not to be disgusted by doing this episode, right?
It is very, I'm not very happy talking about this person, but it has to be said and it has to be known the horrible person that this Sergio Andrade is, and we wanted to let you guys know the facts. This is not everything about him. They're just important facts that we want to let you guys know. So thank you again, Grecia. Thank you for having me on your channel.
Thank you, America, for being in Date Cuenta con Yaquecitas. And remember, guys and girls, to subscribe to our channel, give us like, comment on today's episode, on any questions, anything that you guys want to tell us. And thank you very much for the support that we have received. Thank you. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you so much for listening to us and staying to the end of the video. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified every time that we upload a video or go live. Again, don't forget to comment down below. Give us your like. And I want to end this podcast or this video with a song written and sung by Gloria Trevi, Con los ojos cerrados. After this video, we would like to invite you guys to please go to my channel, Que Onda Spot, for the Q&A of this podcast and the videos that we've been making. We have a lot of questions and we have answers that we want to give you to the questions that you guys have given us and emailed us and messaged us through IG, through Facebook, through YouTube, and through our TikTok. So we really much appreciate all your questions. We're gonna do the Q&A on my channel, so stay tuned for that. Todos quieren que me aleje de él, que es de lo peor y no me quiere bien. Dicen que me envuelve el cerebro con el fin de enredarse en mi cuerpo. Debo confesar que cuando él me besa, el mundo da vueltas dentro de mi cabeza. Cierro los ojos y siento su aliento. Mi sangre quema cualquier pensamiento. Y le creo, le creo, le creo. Le creo cuando dice te quiero. Le creo que su amor será eterno. Y si él me diera otro beso, ¿qué más da si me miente? Yo le creo. Con los ojos cerrados iré tras de él. Con los ojos cerrados siempre lo amaré. Con los ojos cerrados yo confío en él. Con los ojos cerrados yo le quiero creer. Le voy a creer.